Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 10 out of Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. For this video, I'm going to be speaking on the time I was poisoned by prison guards within the Florida Department of Corrections. And what I mean by poisoned is I was food poisoned. I'm not sure exactly what was put inside of my food, what they actually did. No officer or sergeant ever actually admitted to doing it, which in some cases they actually will. They'll come to your door and let you know, hey, I'm the one that did this. Oh, I hope you like that. They'll give you hints and let you know, they're either sending hits, having inmates poison your food, or they did it their damn self. But in this case, I never actually found out who or why. I just knew it happened, and I'm going to tell y'all how it played out. So this was at the Apalachee Correctional Institution, North Florida. We're literally on the Alabama-Georgia border. There's like a lake or a pond or a river, whatever it is, that you can see from the prison rec yard, and that's what separates, Georgia and Alabama. If you swim across that, you're in another state pretty much. But there's really no escaping from this prison. It's not like you're just going to get out and swim over there. If you leave, they're going to kill you. The whole town, it's a very country, rural area. It's very racist up here. Apalachee has been in the news for multiple incidents, whether it's stabbings, murders, whether it was the captain beating an inmate. He was actually sentenced to federal prison. He beat a black inmate for marrying a white woman at Apalachee CI. This was my first and only adult prison besides reception centers. The guards, though, were less hands-on at Apalachee than at the youth offender prisons. When I first got to Apalachee, I was hearing about COs getting knocked out. And I don't know if they started hiring different people or bringing people from other spots, but they were taken a bit more serious and they were quick to throw you in confinement. Not only that, the confinement workers, the confinement sergeants and officers were brutal. They played a lot of dirty games. They would buck people on showers. They would come in and turn the fans off when it was flaming hot inside of there because we don't have air conditioning. They literally will just get a big fan and put it in the corner of this huge room and expect it to blow cool air, through the cells, which it doesn't. We'll be in there drenched in sweat. We'll be getting rashes because of just how hot it is inside of these cells during the hottest months in the state of Florida. Now, we weren't allowed any canteen or really any property inside of confinement. I've seen videos where they'll have, TVs in the cell, cooking things in the cell. We don't get anything in the cell. These guys were so brutal, we weren't allowed to have books. So if you had books in the cell with you, you had to hide them inside of your mat. The COs would come in after they put you in the shower. They would tear up everything. They would tear all the stuffing out of your mat, throw it all over the floor. If you had any papers, any mail, any pictures, they'll stomp on all of that. They'll tear up your pictures. They'll throw it in the toilet. They play a lot of dirty games, like I said. Not only were they bucking us on showers, they would turn the showers freezing cold. So nobody wanted to actually be in the shower. People would buck showers themselves and have to take a bird bath inside of the sink because of how cold they made it. And they did that. So when it was shower day, they're able to go through faster because no one actually wants to get in to that freezing cold water. And I still got in there. You can literally only be under the water for a few seconds before it starts to physically hurt, and then you go numb. But the pain comes back as the numbing goes away. So you'll get in and you'll be shivering, shaking. You feel, it's not a good feeling. You feel like something is wrong. You're so cold after being used to being so hot day after day after day. Now you're freezing and you're starting to sting. You go numb, you get out, you soap up, you get back in, wash it all off, you get out, and now your skin is stinging you because, that numbing feeling is starting to subside. And besides all of the major things that they used to do, it was really the little things that degraded you as a human being. When they put us in the showers, it's single man showers, bars on the door. And what anyone is going to do is you're allowed to come out, with a towel. You're allowed to come out with a washcloth. You got your t-shirt. You got your boxes. And, you hang your stuff up so that people can't see you inside of the shower. You try to come out if you can with your pants or with the shirt. They usually don't allow you to. Sometimes they make you just come out with boxers only. And when you have, a partial uniform, you hang it up on the bars. So you'll put the pants down at the bottom to cover the bottom part. The towel will cover up, the midsection. It doesn't really matter if your chest is showing. And you're doing that because there are other inmates that will watch you in the shower and gun. This is Apalachee CI. This is Gacy. That's its nickname. ACI Gacy. This is where people are getting raped. This is where you're going to find out who's a victim and who's not. There's booty bandits all over the place. My first time at Apalachee CI taking a shower, there were people on the door. And I got on, the door of the shower and was like, man, y'all turn the fuck around. What are y'all doing? The fuck y'all looking at? You know what I'm saying? Like, you really got to snap. And then even so, you'll still have people that's like, man, F you, white boy, da-da-da. Like, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? Not that it directly happened to me. Once I got on the door and started snapping, we had an orderly that was one of my brothers, and he was the barber. And he was telling them, like, man, y'all tighten up. Like, what's up? The fuck y'all got going on? But that's literally how it is. And they can usually tell who is who. The more feminine inmates are going to have less tattoos. They're going to move a certain way. And they're looking for that because they've been in confinement for so damn long. They want to see something. It's disgusting, but this is prison that we're talking about. It's not just knives. There's a lot of other factors you need to take in when you decide to do some bullshit in the street and now you're going to go to prison. These are the type of situations you're going to find yourself in or find yourself dealing with or just being around within the prison system. But even putting clothes up on the bars, the COs will walk up and rip your shit down, throw it on the floor. When they take you out and you're cuffed up behind your back, you got to use your feet to drag whatever clothing you had back to your cell. Now it's all dirty and fucked up, and then they expect you to put it back on. The fact that we were only allowed to have a Bible, not even allowed to have books. Books was one thing that really took me out of prison. It expanded my vocabulary. Books became movies to me. Where my imagination could really just flow. My creativity when it came to me trying to create or whatever it was, drawing, anything, books was an escape. And we weren't even allowed to have that. But it's not that they would just take them away. They would rip them up and then leave it in the cell with you. So you can either try to put back the pieces or just flush it down the toilet. They were really focused on degrading us. The same thing happened with the food. Now, food inside of confinement, when you hit Florida State Prison, if you are not getting canteen, you need to understand that you're going to feel like what it's like to be poor if you've never been poor. You're going to feel what it feels like to starve if you've never gone hungry. It doesn't matter if you eat your 3 trays a day, you are hungry after every meal, especially if you're still working out. We're not fed sufficiently. When shit's popping off and no one's allowed to hit canteen, that causes even more problems. If so-and-so get into a fight, we can't hit canteen. Now he doesn't have food. He's mad. He goes and stabs one of them for being affiliated with so-and-so that was fighting in the beginning. Now we can't hit canteen again. Now we're on lockdown. Everyone's going hungry. Now whoever has food is a target because everyone else, your stomach is hurting. You get used to your stomach hurting throughout the day and especially throughout the night. It is even worse in confinement because not everything on your tray is edible. You can't eat it all. There are things that we get that seem synthetic. There are things that we get that aren't cooked properly, aren't served properly. Whatever it is, there's rats, there's roaches, there's mold, all within the kitchens. You're eating things you shouldn't be eating, but you have to eat it out of survival. And I mean, in confinement, You're going to get used to eating water burgers, water steaks, water fries, water milkshake. That's what we call it, because when you're having these hunger pains, the only thing you can do is go to the sink, push the button, and hope it has enough force that it doesn't dribble off of the dirty, moldy, rusty little knob that is the sinkhole, because it's literally just a hole. It's a little tiny nozzle. Hopefully there's enough force that it shoots out, and sometimes you can take a bendy pen and stick the bendy pen in there, and that way the water will travel up and then force it out, so you're not putting your mouth on this disgusting piece of metal that you can't clean because it has years and years of buildup. And you literally just drink as much water as you can consume. You know, water pizza, water Chinese food, whatever it is. Water pancakes in the morning. You're just drinking water, 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 trying to stay as hydrated as possible because you're sweating in this cell. You know, you have to stay in uniform until after 5 o'clock. That whole time, everything's sweating on you. You come up out of your uniform, now you're in your boxes, laying on your bunk. You got rashes because you just been sweating and sweating. Your clothes are dirty. You got to clean your clothes in the toilet or the sink, however you prefer. It changes your perspective on a lot of different things. Living like that, it changes the way you feel about yourself. It changes the way you feel about those that are in a position of power, the staff members. Knowing that we're going through this, or knowing that they put us through this, to them it's like we put ourselves in prison. To us it's like you make prison this. You know what I mean? Prison doesn't have to run like this, but this is how y'all run it. And this is what we have to deal with. Now, when I was food poisoned, I had a Latin king in my room. You know, I got moved into the room with him. He was young like me. And we get to talking, and come to find out he got shipped from Lancaster before me. So we knew a ton of the same people, you know what I mean? But we were still trying to feel each other out because we weren't all necessarily cool between the Bloods and the Kings. You know, I got on my top bunk. He got on his bottom bunk. And then he randomly just jumped up. He's like, hey, tighten up. And I jumped off the top bunk so damn fast. And he was just like, oh, I like that. I like that. I'm like, what you talk about? Like, what you want to fight? He's like, nah, bro, I'm just making sure I ain't got nobody that's soft in my room. And me and him became real cool. You know, he actually just hit me back off of the JPay. He's still in prison. Mind you, this was about 2014 when this happened. You know, I think he got 10 years. And he's been in there since the JIT camp. But we got mad cool in there, and he was actually real swift. So when it comes to that swift style of fighting, I mean, Jit can dance. He can go back, touch the floor, get back up, all that. But he could also sing. He was one of the most talented singers, you know, alongside with Breezy, that I met inside of prison. I don't know what it is with the Kings, but they be having some talent in there. I had some brothers in there too. I ain't gonna lie, that was souped up, but between Breezy and him, you know, they were souped up for real, for real. And he would hit songs inside of the cell. And, you know, it's the same thing when we don't have the books. When he starts hitting these songs, because I was getting lyrics mailed into me by my grandmother. She would send me all kinds of lyrics. And he would get on the door, and everybody inside of this little quad would get quiet. And he'd get to hitting these songs. And everybody would just lay on their bunk and just reminisce. Just think about whatever it is that you are attached to. Because the songs he would hit, you know, I remember he hit Rihanna one time. And I mean, he hit her song, and everybody was in their feelings just thinking about, you know, whatever wife, girl. I didn't have none, so I was just making them up in my head like, ooh, my little baby, I miss you. But in reality, it's like, nah, I got shitted on by them females. You know what I'm saying? But there was a time when I was allowed out as an orderly for shower time, and we had a black shower crew. And what happens when you're the orderly is they let you out, and you basically just in charge of like sweeping, bullshit, and then you pass out uniforms. But you're also, you know, you can work your way into doing the trays. So they'll bring trays in, you serve trays to people, and you can pass books. So whoever has books, you can sneak up to their cell because every cell gets unlocked. Like all the flaps will have locks on them. So the COs will come through and unlock every single flap before shower time. And when they do showers, only the orderly gets to stay out. So they'll take 2 people from a cell, put them in, the top 2 showers, 2 people from the bottom, put them in the bottom 2 showers, and then they'll go in a different quad. So now it's just me out here, 4 people in the showers, and I can bust moves, you know what I mean? So I'll go to this dude's cell, unlock his flap, take this book, shoot that book under mine or whatever, or go get stamps from him, pass it on to him because he owed him money, and they bust me down in the process. I might get a stamp or 2, whatever, and with that I can buy trays, or if I'm the one doing the trays, I can charge people stamps for extra trays, or I can just give the extra trays to me and my bunkie, and we can get our weight up, whatever it is. But you have a little bit more power being the orderly, and everyone's trying to get your attention. Hey, Jit, come here, bro. Hey, cell 3, hey, cell 8, hey, cell 16. Whatever it is, everyone's calling you because everybody's trying to make moves, and you're the only one that can do it. So more or less, what happened was I was on the top tier, and, I passed the book. And when I opened, I had already done it. I had already done it a few times. But when I opened his flap, it was like stuck. Like the lock you have to move over. It's kind of like on apartment doors. You know how you have that, like when they got that little lock and it'll have the chain. So you got to flick it and then push it over. It's the same thing, but it's facing up and down. So you got to push it over and pull it down, and then you can open the flap. But his was stuck. So when I did it, it made a loud noise. And when I went down, it was like, choom, even louder. So the sergeant and the officer downstairs, they knew what I was doing. I got it out. I grabbed it. I locked it. It was even louder shutting it. Like I already knew I got caught. I dropped the book on the floor. I'm sweeping with the book. I get to the door. Buddy, who's it supposed to go to? I pop it, throw it in, whatever. And they come upstairs and they literally just put me right back into my cell. And they didn't even take out another orderly. And I was like, damn, like, come on, Sarge. It was just a book. Because the black crew, they didn't really care about books like that. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't stressing the books. But they played dirty as hell. They would go in your cell and jump the shit out of you. You know what I'm saying? So, with everything that they let you get away with, they're not supposed to, there's always something that they do that they're not supposed to. And that's the double-edged sword. It's just like, when people talking about COs bringing in drugs and phones, that's all good when you're the person getting the drugs and phones. But when you're the person that gets into it with this officer and you're getting your fucking jaw broke in a back room with no camera, you're not going to be too happy about, dirty COs. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they were. And I don't know if that small thing was the reason I got food poisoned. But I was given a food tray and it had pudding. And the pudding was so watery. It was liquid. You know what I mean? It was just liquid. And I'm not new to this. I've been in a psych cell before. I've been to Lake Butler where they don't even give you a spork. You got to eat with your hands. And when it's watery, you just got to slurp it off your plate. And you eat like a fucking animal. But by this time, this is my last prison. I'm already used to it. I know what time it is. So I get the pudding. I eat it or whatever. And it was literally the next day, and their shift was still working. It was the next day. And after I ate it, I just was feeling sick. I was feeling terrible. My skin, I was like pasty, gray, white. You know what I mean? Like I looked like I was fucking dying. And then I just started throwing up uncontrollably, just throwing up, all in the toilet. And if I remember correctly, at Apalachee, these toilets, you could keep hitting them. Or at least that's how it was in our cell. So sometimes you'll have toilets, you hit it 2-3 times, you won't get another flush for an hour. You know what I mean? But it was flushing. And, I'm throwing up. I'm trying to flush it as it comes out. Just out of respect, so bro don't really have to smell that. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing you do when you're taking a shit. The second the shit comes out, you hit flush. They don't have to hear it. There's less smell. It's just something that you do. And all of a sudden, I start getting diarrhea. And literally, it's like I'm going number one out of number two. You know what I mean? There's nothing coming out of me except for like clear yellow liquid that I'm throwing up and diarrhea all, you know what I'm saying? It's back to back. After I'm done, shitting, I get up, I throw up again, then I gotta shit again. I ran through all of my toilet paper. This is another degrading aspect of confinement. You're limited on toilet paper. There's only certain days they give out toilet paper. You get a roll, your bunkie gets a roll. If you run out, you're pretty much dead. You know what I mean? You'll have to tear up sheets, or you'll have to use your hand and stick your hand in the toilet water, clean yourself, and then, soap up. We live like animals. And for the people that watch prison channels that haven't heard this side of prison, this is how it is. You're going to feel like a savage in there. You're going to feel every bit of what those COs want you to feel like, which is a prisoner, which is less than nothing. When you're in prison, you literally feel, I'm only one step above death, because what can be worse than this shit that we're going through? And my bunkie, he kept it real with me. He gave me his toilet paper, and I pretty much used all of his toilet paper. And at the time, the COs were giving showers. So it's the same black sergeant and the same black officer that I was caught, passing the books with. And I started kicking down the door. I asked him to do it, so he actually did it first. He went to kicking it. And then I started kicking it. I was really just bamming it. And I was so weak, I could barely get up off of the toilet. I could barely move my hands, my arms, my legs. Everything was shaking. I'd never felt so weak before. It was like being extremely dehydrated. I'm kicking the door. They're ignoring it. And then they walk up to the door. And they pop the door. And the sergeant, walked right up to my face, got in my face. And I just told him, like, he was on that rah-rah shit. He was a big dude. I was just like, Sarge, I ain't trying to cause problems, but you see, like, I'm fucked up. And, my bunkie, he's like, yeah, he's throwing up and shitting. And he just had no sympathy in his eyes. He's looking at me like, I just stopped showers. I'm making him work longer and harder than he needs to. And honestly, like, I was ready to just get my shit beat in. You know what I mean? I was ready to get beat the fuck up. But I was like, what could really be worse? Like, I have to do something. I feel like I'm gonna just go to sleep and not wake up. And he left the cell. He shut the door, proceeded with showers, and they called the nurse. And the nurse came within, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes. And they took me down there. They did my blood pressure. They gave me a pill. They gave me some water. The pill basically, it constipates you, so no more fluids can come out. And I think she gave me another one so that I'd stop throwing up. And they took me right back to my cell right after I took the pills. The nurse she had no sympathy. Like, it's a lot of things I took for granted. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you go to a doctor's office and then people are super nice to you and smiling, and you just have an attitude because you don't feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I took all that for granted. So now when I go to the doctors, when I go anywhere, Stop and Shop, when I go to get food, anytime that somebody is friendly or, hey, how you doing? I'm always super friendly back. You know what I mean? I appreciate the people that go out of their way to be like that, because I spent 3 years around people that had no emotion, that showed no signs of emotion, no sign of sympathy, and people that went out of their way to degrade you and make you feel like you're already dead. And, I got back in my cell. I was feeling better. The nurse said it's most likely food poisoning. That's what it sounds like. And that's when I was getting skeptical about the sergeant and the officer. But they never said anything, and I never knew them to really play with food. It was normally like the white COs. I've heard of bleach getting put in food, them spitting in food, and all kinds of nasty things. They're purposely giving you something that's old as shit. But this was one of the more memorable moments inside of prison, and I believe I spoke on it before, speaking on confinement earlier on when I started my channel. I don't know if I ever got this in depth with it, but it was just a moment that, you really realize how much control these people have over your life, over your health, and they have control over the outcome in any given situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if someone's going into diabetic shock or is starting to have seizures and people are kicking the doors down, they have the option to go see what it is. When they find out, they have the option to call a nurse. And there's been a lot of times where they haven't done that, and it's resulted in that person's death, and then that death is written up as a natural or accidental death when really it was caused by the negligence of the staff working in the facility. It's something that when I talk about it, I get mixed emotions, because a part of me, is grateful that I'm free, that I'm not inside of that, I don't have to go through that. And I want to make sure that people that I know that are still in prison don't have to go through it. And it also makes me want to hurt people. It also makes me want to, see that sergeant, see that officer, see that nurse, and put them in a similar situation, a scenario where they can feel and understand how it is to go through this, because they were veterans. They had been working there for a minute. That sergeant was working there for a minute. That nurse was the wife of another staff member. She had been there for a minute. So I can only imagine how many people over the years that they've done this to, or that didn't make it. You know what I mean? That were too nervous to get up and kick the door because they feared the repercussions, or they got the repercussions. They were beaten and then died, and it's a fucked up world. It's a fucked up feeling. And yet again, I hope none of y'all ever have to go through this shit. I hope y'all are able to really listen and comprehend the type of rage and helplessness, the feelings and emotions behind when you're going through something like this. You got the gangsters on YouTube, I would have killed the CO. You would have died too then. You know what I mean? Everyone says, I would have done this, I would have done that. If you look at the statistics, the majority of people never do. Because at the end of the day, you want to go home. And you understand that, okay, you get out of confinement, you smack a CO, now what? That doesn't stop anything from happening to anybody else. You're just going to go to FSP. You're going to be put in a cell by yourself. You're going to be the highest custody level, most likely get put on a death row. You're never going to go outside. You know what I mean? You're never going to be free. You're going to be sitting in your cell until your execution or whatever it is. You're just going to be on closed management for the next decade or 15 years. You stop nothing by doing that. So, for all the people that's like, I would have done this, I would have done that. When all you have is time to think about what you would do when you're inside of prison, I guarantee that's the last thing that you decide to do. But hey, it's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all, y'all rocking with me. Till next time.